Beautiful. This group is all about Damien, and what we got is, of course, Nathan Rose today. These two don't really need an introduction, and I don't necessarily have time for it, but the main thing I want to get across, we're going to get into MCP and Copilot, the connectors, especially around which one is going to be a little bit better for what you're trying to do. And without further ado, let's go to our very first presenter, straight out of New Zealand, Nathan Rose.
All right, thanks so much, Sean. Good morning, everybody. Greetings from the future. It is almost October here. Let me go ahead and share my screen and let's get into it. Oh, wrong one. Share the correct screen and let's get into it. There we go. All right. We are going to be getting into Dataverse MCP today. Now, this is something you've probably been hearing a lot about lately. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It is usually described as USB-C, and this is a new tool. It's been around for going on about a year now, and it's used to connect your existing apps and data to AI large language models. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this works with Dataverse. This is a preview feature today, but watch this space because this is very rapidly moving and you will need to understand what this does and how it works for your Copilot agents in the future. So I've got a blank agent here that I've created, and it doesn't have any instructions, but what I want to do is just show you how easy it is to connect to MCP server. So when you need your agents to do things, you come over here to the tools part of Copilot Studio. Whoops, what did I do? Joys of being on multiple laptops. When you come here to tools and you add a tool, you've got your different tools that are available to you. These used to be called actions. They've now been renamed tools, and you can add connectors, prompts, cloud flows, agent flows. And there's a new option here called Model Context Protocol. Now, Model Context Protocol is generally available in Copilot Studio today. The Dataverse server is still in preview, but you can see that there are tons and tons of options here of ways to add different bits of MCP to your agents. And so literally all you do is click to connect and add it to your agent, and you're done. So that's all you need to do. I won't do this because this sometimes hangs for me when I'm in the middle of demoing and we are a bit pressed for time, but literally you add it and that's it. You don't have to configure it. You don't have to add prompts or things like you do with your other tools. All you do is add it. All right, why is this a big deal? Well, just to give you an idea of what agents using tools were like before MCP. This is an agent that I created for a demo for some government clients here in New Zealand earlier this year. And this agent comes out of scenarios that I've that have originated from conversations with government clients that I've had over the years, where in their contact centers, they often find that they're completely overwhelmed with the amount of cases and contact that they get from their citizens. But when they analyze their caseload, they find that firstly, a lot of their cases can be answered from existing knowledge that they have. Governments tend to have some pretty good knowledge-based resources, and so a lot of cases could just be deflected. And then there's another large subset of cases that are something that nobody can really do anything about. So the example that's often given is somebody got wet waiting for the bus because it was raining, so they sent a grumpy email to the transport authority, even though there's really nothing they can do about it. And so in cases like that, we don't really need a person to do anything about it. We just need to send an empathetic reply. So this is the original version of that agent, and it does three things. Firstly, it's hooked up to some FAQ that I generated for knowledge, and if it can answer a question from its knowledge, it does that. Otherwise, it creates a case if it determines that needs to happen, or it just sends an empathetic reply if somebody's having a bad day. Now, this in the original cut of this agent took 5 different tools, 2 separate tools for my Outlook responses, my email responses, and then 3 different Dataverse connections, looking up a contact, creating a new one if we didn't find it, and then creating a case. So that's been the world pre-MCP. What does this look like in the world of Model Context Protocol? Well, this is the updated version of the agent that I created about a month ago. And again, the instructions are largely similar. Big picture, it does the same thing. The body of the instructions look a little bit different. But when we come here to tools, it's only 2. So we've gone from 5 tools down to 2 to get our agent to do stuff using Model Context Protocol, because all I need to do is write sentences, natural language, to get my agent to do stuff. So we're starting to move into the ultimate low code of natural language, where I'm literally just writing sentences to get my agent to go ahead and do stuff. So that's why this is a big deal. Now, my favorite party trick is when writing agent instructions, I like to take these and put it into GitHub Copilot to have it look for 3 things for me. Firstly, make sure that there's nothing ambiguous in the instructions. Secondly, fill in any gaps. So for example, you can see some of the agent details here. These have been filled in for me by GitHub Copilot. And then thirdly, I ask it to make sure that I'm using tokens efficiently. You might have noticed when you're working with agents, sometimes you'll get a message about Gen AI orchestration being exceeded. And so I like to have GitHub Copilot take care of all this for me. Now, unfortunately, the example is in GitHub Copilot on my other laptop. Otherwise, I would show you, but that's my favorite party trick. When you're working with agents in Copilot, write out what you want the agent to do, then pop it into GitHub Copilot to have it refine it. All right, let's see this in action. So come down here to test my agent. So this is triggered when emails come in to my mailbox, and I'm going to come down to this one here. And what it's going to do is it's going to go and it's going to create a case for me in Dynamics Customer Service. Now I'm not using the actual case table because the customer polymorphic lookup was a bit of a bridge too far. But I've created just a blank custom table where I could use a simple contact. But let's go ahead and see this in action. So when I click Start Testing, it's going to go and list out the things that it knows how to do. So it's connected to Dataverse MCP, and it's then going to look through the email that it's received. This is the email I sent. It's now going to look at that email versus its tools. And let's try this one more time. It didn't find it. So your mileage will vary when you are using MCP. It does. It is still in preview. Let's try this one more time. But you'll see it run through these steps. All right, I think it looks like it's completed. So let's come over here to our test case. No, it didn't. All right, well, because I'm a good TV chef, I did have this work earlier, and this is what I would have expected to see. So it would have gone and created this fake case for me. It's stuck a name in the title field. It's popped the body of the email in, and gone and found a contact and added it. So that's all been done with natural language. I didn't have to configure a bunch of tools. I literally had Dataverse MCP server do that for me. All right, let's move on to our next example, and I'll show you an interactive agent using Dataverse MCP. So this is my interactive agent. This was built based on a scenario with a customer for dynamic sales. And in a discovery we did with them a number of years ago, they mentioned that creating quotes was going to be a bit of a drama because they had to add hundreds and hundreds of products to their quotes. And so a colleague and I built a version of this last year using semantic kernel, which is a pro code option in Copilot Studio. It means you've got to build Azure functions and that type of thing. It's pretty cool, but it is very much pro code. So what I decided to do was try to replicate this in the low code world using Dataverse MCP. So I'm hooked up to Dataverse MCP in my agent, and my agent has some very basic instructions. So what it's going to do when I tell it to go ahead and create an opportunity, it's going to go and find a contact and account. And I've hard coded this because again, it is early days and I'm just playing around with it. So it's going to go find this account and contact. It's then going to go and create an opportunity. Now I'm using a Power FX expression here to generate a random number in the title of that opportunity, just so that I don't run up against duplicate detection stuff. It's then going to go look for the product that I've mentioned and then create an opportunity product against that opportunity. So let's go ahead and see this in action. All right, so triggered MCP. It's going to go list out all of the different things that it knows how to do. It's now going to start looking up the various tables, finding those attributes, running through its paces. It's creating the opportunity, looking up the records, looking up the products. And just like your kids, it knows exactly when and how to embarrass you. Let's try this one more time.
I love a live demo, Nathan.
What's that?
I love a live
Yeah,
demo.
I am 0 for 2 so far this morning. So, but again, like a good TV chef, we've got the dish in the oven off camera in case we need it. I'll try this one more time.
We call it Blue Peter in the UK. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
I think you having issues with it is teaching people a lot about the connector and what to be ready for.
Yeah, so it is all right, so this is precisely why I always ask GitHub Copilot to look at the instructions that I'm giving to the agent for token efficiency. Let's do this one more time before I hand over to demo. Actually, let me just do a hard refresh here. So while I'm doing this, the question in your minds is, Nathan, why am I sitting through this? Why should I consider something that that seems a little prone to embarrassing you? MCP is great when you need something that is not super deterministic. So we need an agent to be able to reason over something and then work out what needs to happen, and we need to do this in a fairly low code way. MCP is fantastic for this. I wouldn't use it for things like running payroll because, as you see, your mileage will definitely vary. Now, it is going to get better over time as models get better, as the tool matures. But for scenarios where we need to kind of quickly work out what needs to happen and then go do it, it's great for those kind of opportunities. All right, it looks like it's working now. Cross our fingers and toes. All right, and it's gone and done what I expected. So let's come over here to dynamic sales, and we'll do a quick refresh. And this is the opportunity that we've created. You can see that we've got our topic, we've got a random number that's been generated with Power FX, and we've got a contact, a customer that's been added that's hard coded. And when I come here to products, you can see that it's added the opportunity product with the quantity that is specified. So that's an interactive agent using Dataverse MCP. So I am little over time, so I'm going to hand over to Demo, who's going to show you some really cool stuff.
Nice one. Okay, right. I'm going to do exactly the same now and share my screen. And thank you very much for putting that together, Nathan. Despite the demo gods, I think it's always fantastic to see some real stuff, to see it working or not working, or both. So the challenge from today's session was really to look at the different options. How can you write to Dataverse using agents and flows? And there's a new piece of technology on the block called Code Interpreter. And you can see my screen right now. I've got Microsoft 365 Copilot. I actually described the process using my microphone. Not very well, because I said, can you create me a markdown map? And it said lockdown map. But this is the process that I'm going to demonstrate, hopefully, as it loads on screen. I have a CSV that has some invoice details. I'm going to send that across to an agent. That agent is going to pass that to a prompt. The prompt is going to use Code Interpreter. Code Interpreter will turn that CSV into filtered data. If I bring up the CSV now, I've got the CSV. You can see a couple of these have urgent as part of their status. So I'm going to use this prompt to filter out those urgent, and then I'm going to create a Dataverse record, or two Dataverse records, I hope, using this prompt and Code Interpreter. Certainly that's the idea. So this is also in preview, I believe. And if I jump across onto my agent, my invoice manager, it's very simple in that I have a topic for uploading files. There's probably a bit more work I could put into this, but basically when I ask to review or process an invoice, it will ask me to upload a file. It'll call my flow. It will take the content. Let me show you the Power FX here. Take the content of the file, and it'll pass it to a flow to then call a prompt. The prompt also, as well as writing to Dataverse, will also generate an Excel file. And this is the magic of the prompts. This is the thing that I quite like about this new capability. So if I jump across onto my flow that gets called within that topic, it's just a normal trigger. When an agent calls a flow, I define the parameters. I've defined a file content parameter here, which allows me to pass the file that the user's uploaded. And then the magic all happens in this run a prompt action. And I guess for those that are looking at this and thinking, what on earth is this screen? This is agent flows. So we've got cloud flows in Power Automate, and we have a separate user interface for agent flows, but it's the same concept. It's triggers and actions. So this is my runner prompt. It's called the invoice data urgent prompt that I created. And it has a single input parameter, that's CSV data. And basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the file content from that prompt, or from the trigger, sorry, and putting it into the prompt. If we have a look at the prompt itself, this is where I hope the user interface behaves. We'll click on edit and it should load up prompts. I'm going to give it a couple. There we go, popped up. You've probably already used prompts because GPT and prompts has been about in Power Platform for, I don't know, a good 12 months or so. But the capabilities within prompts are growing. And the capability that I want to highlight is via this little ellipsis, these three dots. If you come in here and go into settings, you will see that you have Code Interpreter. So Code Interpreter allows you to generate Python, and it's almost like single-use Python. It's not dynamic. Once you've generated that Python in your prompt, it's there. It's then available to run again and again and again. It doesn't change every time you run that prompt. If you find that this is disabled or it's grayed out, you actually need a Power Platform administrator. They can then go and enable it on an environment by environment basis. So back onto my prompt, as you can see in the instructions, it says use the invoice data from the CSV, filter for urgent status invoices, create a record in Dataverse for each, and then I've used the various properties within that table to define how they should match up from that CSV. The final step is create an Excel file with the data in a table, highlight the urgent priority invoices in yellow. So there are actually two things happening in this prompt. The first is to turn that CSV into filtered data, in that it's going to just pick out those urgent invoice lines. It's then going to call Dataverse, generate a record within Dataverse, and then off the back of that, it's going to create an Excel file with all the records, but highlight those urgent ones again in yellow. And we'll see it in action in a minute in our agent. Over on Power Apps, I have a table for my invoices, and I've got some sample invoices, and you'll see that actually some of the priorities are not urgent, but as part of other processes that don't exist yet in my POC. But we've got 5 invoices, invoice 1 to 5. I click refresh, there's nothing else in there. This is now going to hopefully work live. So back across onto my agent over on the test pane. If I ask the question to process my file, that'll do. That should trigger my topic, and we'll see now file upload CSV has been triggered. It's asking me to provide a file. I can browse for my sample invoices file that I've got and send that across. And so what's happening behind the scenes now is it's calling my flow and then calling the prompt and extracting the link for the Excel document, which I can now download. So if I click on that Excel document and download, I now have that Excel file just landed on my desktop. As you can see, it's freshly created because I have to go and enable editing, etc. But that's got the same records that I had in the CSV that I've uploaded. And just if I bring that up side by side, here we go. We can see those records. It's highlighted those urgent ones in yellow. So those 2 there that are yellow. But of course, we wanted to learn about some options for writing to Dataverse. That was what the challenge was in today's session. So Nathan showed how to use traditional connectors, then went on to showing you how to use MCP. And of course, if I come across here and do a refresh, we now have those two urgent entries in my table using a prompt. So let's go and have a look at that flow in more detail. I can come into activity and go into that flow run history. So if we remind ourselves, I asked the agent to process a file. And if I went back over onto my agent, it's called that topic. Within that topic, if we go into that specific workflow, it asked me for the file, provide me with your file, which we can see here and obviously on the test pane. We then go into the action. There's the action, and that is my Power Automate flow. We pass across the file content, and in return, we reply with our Excel file there. If we have a look at the flow has, if we look at the raw inputs, in fact, let's not look at the raw inputs, let's look at the raw outputs. We have the content byte, the base 64 of that CSV file that I uploaded, my sample invoices regenerated CSV. We have the run a prompt, which accepts that as an input. It just so happens that the input has been converted from base 64 into text. And for the eagle-eyed, you might have noticed there was an expression there that converts from base 64 into text. And in the output, this is where things get a bit interesting. So this is where you need to sort of understand JSON a bit, albeit you could use parse JSON, which is what I've done with my solution. But you'll see there's a files array. So within the body, we have response v2, and with response v2, we have the prediction output, and then within prediction output, we have files, which is an array, and that contains the base 64 of the Excel file that's come back. Don't believe there's any logging as such with regards to what's happened in Dataverse, other than what happened in Dataverse happened in Dataverse. If we were to test this prompt again, I'll go into edit and I'll maybe just generate some more sample data and show you what it looks like from prompts, because we can test it all from prompts. So I'll go into the Copilot on the right-hand side, because we're all about Copilotverse. This is Copilots everywhere. Can you generate me some sample invoice data with some of the records showing urgent in the following CSV format? In fact, let me just go and I copy just a header. Let me copy the header and one of the lines. And I'll send that across, and hopefully we'll get some similar sample data. This time we've got several urgents within the sample data that's been generated. If I jump into the CSV data here for testing, I can delete the data that's in there. Remember, this is where you would initially come and build the prompt. You have to provide sample data. You hit the test button. That's actually what writes the Python for you. We'll have a quick look at the Python in a minute once this runs. Again, this is preview, so it might not work. It might work. So here we go. It seems to have identified 4 of those records as urgent. If we have a look here, so 2, 4, 6, and 9. So we've got 2 is urgent, 4 is urgent, 6 is urgent, and also 9 is urgent. And if I go into my table and refresh, we've now got 2, 4, 6, and 9 have arrived in there as well. If you want to know where all this code lives, up the middle here we have text. If I click in here and switch to code, you can see the lovely Python that's been written. And for those that already use the Dataverse API, you might notice this familiar endpoint here where we're doing a post to create records in Dataverse using Python. So that, in a nutshell, is a code interpreter, how you can use it not only in agents, I believe you can use it in flows and in Power Apps as well, but at the moment it's writing code for you based on an initial prompt. It's code that you can't edit. As I type in my keys, you'll see that it's saying cannot edit in read-only editor mode, but we've successfully created some Dataverse records. We've filtered them. We've created an Excel file. End of demo.